the title question is rhetorical. I know why this is happening. But before I start, I should probably explain to you, the audience, what it is that is happening. This is people counting the number of coins in a public collection or in the literature about a subject and assuming that that count has told them something about the number of coins that actually existed in the past. It absolutely doesn't. The publication that caught my eye recently was The Kushanas in the Indian Subcontinent. The Kushans are among the better-known ancient dynasties of India, ruling a region including parts of Afghanistan, Pakistan and the northwest of the modern state of India from the 1st to the 4th century. And this is not the first time they have featured in this sort of argument. Attempts to measure circulating coinage in South Asia by counting coins have been made by R.S. Sharma and John Dale, and it is well known that there are serious problems with those estimates. Prasad seems to be aware of this and writes, "Museum collections provide a refracted view of the volume of currency in circulation." But without skipping a beat, Prasad immediately pivots to, nevertheless, they are helpful in drawing comparisons and gauging the degree of money circulation in the economy under respective rulers. Which, of course, is exactly what they are not helpful for doing, precisely because museum collections are a refracted sample. This mistake is really common. I saw Messier doing exactly the same thing, advocating for exactly the same sort of error in a 2019 catalogue for an exhibition on Islamic coins. So why am I picking on Prasad? Well, because there's an irony in this case. The cautionary tale, the example people point to illustrate why counting coins is so problematic, is exactly the group of coins, the gold issues of the Kushan king Huvishka, that Prasad is working with here. This is the data, slightly corrected, from Prasad's publication. And if alarm bells are going off in your head because of that empty space, yeah, they absolutely should be. We'll be coming back to that. From this, Prasad concludes, even a cursory study of these coin cabinets suggests that the largest number of gold coins were issued and put into circulation during the reign of Huvishka. And yes, a cursory examination of evidence is an excellent way to arrive at erroneous conclusions. But to understand just how erroneous this is, we need some different data. This table is from a presentation I gave in 2015, but some form of this data has been available since 1984. What my data shows is for a sample of extant Kushan coins, the number of dies identified for each king. I'm only showing obverse dies here. The number of reverse dies is larger and does vary, and if we were doing this in more depth, that would be an issue. If we were to read this table in the cursory manner Prasad recommends, we'd get roughly the same answer. Huvishka's coinage is about a third of the coinage in both this sample and Prasad's. And more coins are known of Huvishka than for any other Kushan king. It's worth noting, simply using a more comprehensive sample doesn't alter that basic pattern. Here's the problem. It is nowhere near 1/3 of the dies. It's apparent that the sample of Huvishka coins is a lot more comprehensive than for any other reign. So what we need to do to compare is estimate the number of dies that were originally used. And generally, we employ this formula to make that calculation. If we plot the number of coins from my data, which is much closer to all extant coins than Prasad's is, we get a visual confirmation that the coins of Huvishka outnumber those for other reigns. If that accurately reflected coins in circulation, we would expect the number of tools that we use to make those coins, the dies, to show the same pattern. But they absolutely do not. It's actually worse than that. Huvishka's coins are nearly 5 times as common as the coins of the later Kushan ruler Shaka. Estimates reverse that. Shaka's mints seem to have used 5 times as many dies as Huvishka's. Dramatic as that example is, there is nothing surprising or even particularly exceptional about it. Almost every set of data I have ever looked at has shown the same discrepancy. The only exception I can think of, and it is an exception, is a paper by Strubantz in which they worked on a very well-controlled set of coins from an archaeological excavation, and those showed the same pattern for dies as they did for coins. But it is the only exception. These two sets of data almost never line up, and that suggests to us that the number of coins extant almost never reflects the number of coins that were. Just to be clear, counting coins does tell us things. Counting coins in collections tells us about collecting practice. Counting coins at sites or in hoards tells you about those sites or hoards. It just doesn't tell you anything useful about the circulation of ancient coins. And the reasons are fairly obvious. Finders, collectors, and institutions, different interests, distort what we see in the published literature. They distort even the sample of the extant coinage. Do you remember that blank I pointed to in Prasad's data? Prasad did not count the coins in the British Museum. He just counted the coins in a 19th century catalogue of the collection. And Percy Gardner, who wrote that catalogue, was a classicist, and like many 19th century classicists, he evaluated things in relation to Greek prototypes. He did not see the Kushans as worth studying in their own right, so his catalogue cuts off when Greek stops being used as the predominant script on the coins at the end of the reign of Vasudeva I. It just excludes all of the later kings, even though there are examples of those in the collection Gardner was looking at, which illustrates exactly the kind of interesting thing you can learn about 19th century cataloguers by counting the coins, but also why that count isn't going to tell you anything about the coins themselves. By now, the methodological point should be apparent. If your data is sufficiently compromised to make drawing conclusions unsound, and simple counts of extant coins almost always are, then the only methodologically sound approach is not to draw conclusions. If the data is bad, don't use it. Don't assume methodological problems disappear because you lampshade them. But at the start, I promised to talk about why researchers so frequently make this mistake. And to do that, I need to tell you about the Drunkard search. One night, walking home, you stop to help somebody search for their wallet. I'm sure you would, because my audience are nice people. After a few minutes, you ask if they are sure they dropped it under this streetlight. The stranger responds, "No, I lost it in that dark alley." So you ask, "Why are you searching for it here? The light is better here." In anecdote form, we can see the problem. This is clearly a moment where you either need to get a torch, or if you can't get a torch, start cancelling credit cards. But we also see how it can be tempting to do something, even something unproductive. As regular viewers of this channel will know, when it comes to historiographical questions, I don't like incompetence as an answer. It's not that people aren't incompetent. It's that there are lots of ways to get things wrong. And if people keep doing something wrong in exactly the same way, I find any analysis that doesn't explain why they find that particular wrong answer so compelling deeply unsatisfying. In this case, it's pretty simple. Counting coins in publications is easy. The light is better. And sometimes people want an answer. They want an answer so badly, they will take the wrong answer rather than no answer at all. There's probably a lengthy philosophical discussion in knowingly using wrong answers, but for our purposes here, the wrong answer is always bad. But because getting a good answer is hard, some might suggest impossible in this case. It's natural, as we all have a deep psychological need for answers, to prefer the wrong answer over no answer. And since being a competent historian requires you to know when not to give answers, you have to understand that impulse in order to resist it. In some future episode, I should circle back round to whether die counts tell us anything other than that coin counts are wrong, but for now, thank you for listening.